Hello everyone. What we're going to learn today is how to use your Elmo with Zoom and video recordings. We're going to take a look at how the Elmo gets set up. We're going to take a look at the ImageMate software, and then we're going to take a look at using that ImageMate software with Zoom and with video recording software such as QuickTime Player, Loom, or Screencastify. First of all, the setup. First, I've got a picture of your Elmo with nothing plugged into it. So you've got your power port, you've got your VGA port that goes to your projector, you've got your VGA port that goes to your computer, but one of the ports that you probably have never used before is the USB port, and that's the thing that is key to make this next process work. Depending on what model of Elmo you have, you either have a USB cable or you will have a USB cable that looks like this, or you will have a USB cable that looks like this. If you don't have a USB cable, you need to put in a help desk ticket in order to get one. And we have plenty to go around, so no worries on that, but we need to get you a USB cable in order for this to work. Here's a picture of everything connected. Notice that the USB cable is now plugged into that USB port. The other end of that USB cable goes into the side of your computer. So that's the other piece of this, is you're going to have to find a spot on your computer for that other USB cable. Here's the top of your Elmo. Just make sure it's on. It doesn't matter what light is lit because this is not using the VGA port, it's using the USB port, so it really doesn't matter what light is lit on the little circle. But the Elmo definitely has to be on. So once you have your physical setup all done with all of your cables, the next thing you want to do is get the ImageMate software. It used to be in self-service, but now that self-service causes other problems with our computers until they get updated, we can't use self-service, and so just put in a help desk ticket and we'll get ImageMate loaded on your computer as quickly as possible. If you do a command space to search for it, you should find ImageMate on your computer. If you don't find it, put in that help desk ticket. Maybe you never loaded it over the course of time. So I'm going to open ImageMate. And what happens is it's an interface that allows your computer and your Elmo to talk. Typically, your Elmo was always talking with your projector. And so whatever you would put underneath the Elmo, it would show up on the projector. But we want it to actually connect to our computer. So that's what the ImageMate software does. So I can put my hand under the camera and you'll see my hand. There's a little bit of a delay, but for the most part, it's pretty good. So the first way I'm going to show you how to use the ImageMate software is with Zoom. And again, remember, you're going to use Zoom for your live sessions with your students, but you can also use Zoom to create your recorded instruction, as you learned in the video recording trainings. So I'm going to open up Zoom. So here we are in a Zoom session, and the first thing we want to do is make that ImageMate window as big as it possibly can. You can see it over here in the right hand side, so I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to click on this little arrow right here, and I'm going to expand that so that it's full screen. But Zoom didn't go away, it's just in the background. So I'm going to hit Command Tab to bring Zoom to the front. And then, so I'm talking with my students, we are interacting, I'm asking them questions and so on, and I want to go ahead and do something under my Elmo. So I'm going to share my screen, but instead of sharing my desktop, this is something that you can do as a little shortcut. That window's open in the background, so are all of this other window too, but I'm going to pick this one. If I pick that one and then click share, it's going to bring that window right to the front, and it's full screen and I'm ready to go. So now I take my pen and we are going to talk through the solving of the following expressions. I'm multiplying monomials and binomials. So I would come over just like you typically do. But again, remember, this is recording. So you're going to have those recordings for instructional purposes. And also the students can see this in a live session. So I would just solve this like I normally do. And there you have an example of how you can use the Elmo through Zoom. Also, note the very cool part about how your image shows, let me point right here, the image shows in this little box when you're doing the screen sharing. So I think that's a great thing as well. Again, your students continue to see your face while you're filling out that worksheet. So what I would do is I would just stop sharing just like you always do. And then continue on with your Zoom session. So the next thing I want to show you is how to use the ImageMate software with QuickTime Player or some other screen recording software that we learned, either whether it be Loom or Screencastify or Zoom like I just showed you, or with QuickTime Player. So I have QuickTime Player open. I'm going to do a new screen recording. Click the circle, click anywhere. And so now I'm doing a screen recording. So maybe I'm going to create a pre-recorded instruction for my students, my direct instruction. So I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm doing it inside of QuickTime Player instead of doing it inside of Zoom. We've talked about the pros and cons of one versus the other, so whichever one you go about. But I'm just showing you QuickTime Player. This could also work with the others that we've talked about. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm in QuickTime Player, and I am doing a screen recording, and I'm doing the exact same thing. So then I'm going to go over to my Elmo and solve these expressions. Going back to my math days. And so now I have that screen recording. Again, I've got QuickTime Player going. I've got the ImageMate software going. And when I'm done, I can either quit out of QuickTime Player and save, or I can close this and I can stop my recording. And then if I were creating this for my direct instruction, my recorded direct instruction, I would take all that stuff off that I did at the beginning until I went full screen. And this is where I would actually start my direct instruction. So just as a reminder, I would go to that, I would split that clip. This is where I would start my actual instruction. I would show them how I solve those algebraic equations. I would split the clip again. I would delete this part and this part. Click done. Close it. Give it a name. And now I have my direct instruction recording using the Elmo.